put another knife in his chest, and he pointed a letter with threats to Ayani Shiali, later also a letter with threats towards me. So the penalty for him being honest and helping on the movie, using once again the pen instead of the axe, resulted in his death in broad daylight in the streets of Amsterdam a few years ago.
What happened to his assassin?
Well, the assassin was taken to court. He was sentenced for our maximum sentence in the Netherlands, which is life imprisonment. But shocking was that when he was in court and he had a testimony, he said that he didn't regret it, that Allah ordered him to do so, and that if he would have had the chance, he would do it again tomorrow. This is what his testimony in court was.
Meir Kahane started the Jewish Defense League in New York. He then emigrated to Israel. He was a member of parliament in Israel, a member of the Knesset. He was also assassinated in the lobby of a Manhattan hotel back in the 1990s. Tell us about that assassination. You mention it in your book, and the connection between that and 9/11.
Yeah, well, of course, I believe that whether it's Kahane or whether it's others, it's very, very bad to use violence in any possible way. And the way lawyers act, both when it comes to people who act against 9/11 or with Meir Kahane, who indeed was murdered for his ideas, is something that we should, and you can read about it in my book, should always, and from whatever direction it will come, whether it's Jewish extremism, Christian extremism, or Islamic extremism, we should say no to it. The difference, however, is that when it comes to the Islam, the orders are being found in the Holy Book, are being found in the Quran, are being found in the life of Muhammad. I tried to spend a lot of time in my book, Mark, for that, to show the people that Muhammad, who still is an example for so many Muslims, how he actually lived when, and it's interesting in a historical perspective, when Muhammad left from Mecca to the city of Al-Jatrib, later called Medina, how he changed the religion from Mecca to an ideology in Medina, how he murdered many, even Jewish tribes, how still today people are inspired by that, how even verses from that time were found on the body of Theo van Gogh that we just spoke about. And this is something that we should see. The Quran is not like the Bible, a book of love. It's a book full of hatred, of violence, of terrorism. Muhammad was not a prophet of love like Jesus was. Muhammad was a warlord. He was somebody who tricked many tribes at that time in the Middle East and now Saudi Arabia. So we have to see, and this is my major point, we have to see Islam not so much as a religion compared to Christianity or compared to Judaism. We should see it as another totalitarian ideology. If you want to leave Islam, even today, you are a renegade, an apostate, and you have to be killed. And this is exactly the same what happened in Nazi Germany or in communist Russia, and is not the case in the real religions. And if we are able to see Islam for what it is, to see what we are dealing with, then it might not be politically correct, but that is the only way to show the people that we really need less instead of more Islam. And as the Dutch voters said in a poll not so long ago, 2/3 of the Dutchmen believe that the mass immigration from Islamic countries was the biggest mistake of the Dutch government since the Second World War.
Let me take you back to November 1990 when a member of the Israeli Knesset, Meir Kahane, was killed in New York. He was killed by El Sayed Nosser, an Egyptian-born American citizen.
Yeah.
And after his arrest, the FBI discovered boxes of documents, maps, and diagrams of buildings, including the World Trade Center towers, in the assassin's Brooklyn apartment. And in your book, you have a passage from one of the documents which read, quote, "We must thoroughly demoralize the enemies of Allah. This is to be done by means of destroying and blowing up the towers that constitute the pillars of their civilization, such as the high buildings they are so proud of." And this assassin belonged to a group of jihadists who were being trained by Al-Qaeda member Ali al-Masoud Mohammed, nicknamed Al-Amriki the American, who incidentally had been a U.S. Army drill sergeant at Fort Bragg who had stolen classified military information, later found in Nosair. He was the assassin of Kahani's boxes. So we can see the roots of what later became the 9/11 attack. To build on a point you just made about radical Islam's disposition of those who disagree, including apostates, any who forsake the religion, and infidels, people who don't adhere to their religion. And I'll use an analogy. The Communist Party USA is a legal political party in the United States. It still exists. It's not outlawed. It doesn't have very many followers. But to incite for the violent overthrow of the U.S. government is illegal. The Communist Party, in its official documents, doesn't advocate that, although there are no doubt communists who do. To the extent that Muslims' founding documents dictate that infidels who can't be converted to Islam must be killed, a religion that advocates this kind of thing shouldn't be able to operate legally as a religion in a free country.
Well, that's exactly my point. The basis of all. That's why I don't believe that there is a moderate Islam. I believe in moderate people. I believe even in Muslims who call themselves moderate. But there is no moderate Islam. There is only one Islam, and that is the Islam based on the Quran. And the Quran is a book that, if you read it with all the surahs, you will see that especially in the Medina time of Muhammad's life, that it's violent. It's only about suppression. It's about killing any kafir, anything that is not Islamic. And we should stop the spreading of more Islam in our free societies. Why do we grant the so-called religion Islam the rights of other religions, where at the same time, if Islam would become dominant, the first they would do is to kill the rights of anybody who is not Islamic. In Holland, the Mein Kampf, this terrible book of Adolf Hitler, is outlawed. You are not allowed, except if you're a scholar in the university, you are not allowed to buy it. And I remember that a few years ago, I tried to make a point towards the liberals in my own parliament, and I said that, well, you are so pleased to outlaw Mein Kampf. Here's another book, which is even worse than Mein Kampf. If you look at anti-Semitism, it's even worse. If you look at violence, it's even worse. This book is called the Quran. If you are consistent, you don't only outlaw. I mean, I'm not in the habit of outlawing books, but I wanted to show them their inconsistency. If you want to outlaw Mein Kampf, as is done in most of Europe, also outlaw the Quran. And of course they didn't. They were afraid to do so. It's very easy to shout against fascism, but it's very difficult today to turn yourself against the Islam, because, once again, the Islamic voters in Europe today are an enormous political force. In my own country, the Netherlands, city is the second biggest city as Rotterdam, as you know. The municipality elections were won by liberals and leftist parties because of the Muslim vote.
Mr. Wilders, I need to take a break here. When we come back, we'll have one more segment. Tell us what it's like living under this death threat, having a panic room in your house, and also why your book, Marked for Death, had to be published in the United States by Regnery, a conservative publisher, not in your home country. Marked for Death is the title of Geert Wilders' book. He's a Dutch member of parliament who's been the subject, the target of death threats by Islamists who he's criticized. So why did you have to publish this in the United States, not in your native Netherlands?
Well, for two reasons, actually, Mike. The first reason is that I believe I have a message for America. Defend your freedom. You are an example for Europe, but be careful. Stop the Islamization and don't make the mistakes that we made in Europe in the last decades. But secondly, also because I published my first book in 2005. It was called Choose Liberty, and I did not find any Dutch publisher who wanted to print this with his name. Finally, I found a publisher, but he wanted to print it on the basis of anonymity, so nobody knew who printed it for security reasons. I can even understand that, even though it's very sad. And now I'm very happy that Regnery Publishing in America was so brave to take it on and to publish this book in America.
And is this because Dutch publishers have been intimidated? They're so afraid of a violent response?
Yeah, they were afraid. I remember even when I had book signing sessions in Amsterdam and other cities planned after my book in 2005, that half of the bookstores canceled because they were afraid that if I would be there in their shop signing the book, that, there would be consequences from radical Muslims. So it's very difficult to do it in Holland, and I'm very happy and proud to find a publisher in Regnery here in America to publish it.
What a sad commentary that a free society would be so cowed by the threat of Islamic violence.
I fully agree. But unfortunately, this is the reality today.
What's your life like on a daily basis? Are you afraid when you look over your shoulder?
Well, I know that threats, certainly the threats from abroad, are very serious often. So, well, you have to live with it. I go when I leave my house in the morning with the secured house. I drive to Parliament with armored cars, with sirens. If I go to speak somewhere publicly, I have to wear a bulletproof vest. As I said, my wife and I lived in prison cells and any other places. So it's not an easy life, but and I cannot say it's worth it. But there is no alternative. I believe that if I would give in, or if I would stop being a politician and stop speaking out, then the people who use non-democratical means, the people who use threats, the people who want to use violence, they would win. And whatever happens, I will never, ever let them win or silence me.
What happened when you were supposed to speak in Britain before their parliament?
Yeah, well, I was invited by two colleagues from the parliament in London, in the United Kingdom. And at that time, the Home Secretary, Jackie Smith, thought that I was a danger for, as she called it, public security and public harmony. I don't know how you can even invent those kind of words. I mean, you know, the United Kingdom, if you are kind of Hamas leader from Gaza, you are very welcome to visit the United Kingdom. But I was not. It was an absolute disgrace. I went, by the way, to a court of appeal, and it was overturned, the ruling or the decision of the British government. So 1 year later, I could go to Westminster, and I showed my film Fitna. I had a discussion with members of parliament. So it proved once more that leftish Labour politicians in Europe find the multicultural society and people who criticize Islam a bigger threat than the real terrorists in our society.
Well, I wish you the best of luck. I certainly commend your courage.
Thank you for being on your show. It was a pleasure.
Geert Wilders, our guest. The book, Marked for Death, Islam's War Against the West and Me, published by Regnery. You can certainly get it at Amazon.com.